guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and you responded a few days ago when I made a video and I asked near the end, do you guys want to see a video where I do a list of the top CTPs for each Transcended character? Because we made this video a couple of months ago for tier 3s, but I never followed it up with a list for Transcended characters. And you emphatically hit the like button on that video, so thank you so much. If you like this video and it helps you, go ahead and leave a like on this one. If you don't like this video, go ahead and leave the one next to the like that's upside down. If that's how you feel. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna go through all of the characters that are transcended in the game, including the 7 characters that I don't have transcended, 4 or 5 of which are quite not good. And I'm gonna give you my top 2 picks for their CTPs. The reason why I'm doing the top 2 picks and not the top 3 picks is twofold. One, the main reason why I'm not doing 3 is because most characters in Marvel Future Fight are basically really good at one area of the game. They're basically really good at PvE or really good at PvP. And fortunately, conveniently, the majority of game modes in Marvel Future Fight are PvE focused, and the majority of characters are good at PvE, right? For every native tier 3 like Sentry that we get, who's really good for PvP, we get 2 or 3 that are going to be really good for PvE. So that basically holds for all existing characters. At least 2/3 of the characters in the game basically don't have any business being PvP metas. So because of that, there's really no sense in suggesting 3 different PvE CTPs. You sort of get the point. If I tell you a character is good with a rage, and then I tell you they're good with an energy, you're gonna guess the 3rd CTP is gonna be like a judgment or a destruction, or you sort of get the point, right? It's not gonna be suddenly another CTP. There will be a few cases where I mention a character that is actually 2-way, and although I'm not gonna be mentioning CTPs for them, all 3 members of the Black Order, Black Dwarf, Corvus, Glaive, and Supergiant, do have some PvP potential. You know, it does vary in value, but all 3 of them do. If you want a more in-depth PvP analysis like that, check out one of Commander's latest videos, or his latest video. He has a YouTube channel, fantastic channel. But yeah, I haven't discussed that in depth. But anyways, that's why I lowered it down to 2. The other reason why I lowered it down to 2 and why I need to wrap up this intro is because I want to make the video shorter and more digestible. So diving right in with Black Dwarf, aka Cull Obsidian, I'm going to go really brief on why I think one CTP is better than the other, and I'll just give you the 2 options. So for Black Dwarf, I think energy is the best just because he's very easy to proc on, which is an important distinction to make. And in general, if a character is going to be very good at World Boss Legend, energy is going to be better than rage, or in some cases judgment, but energy is usually better than rage, and in his case he can't take advantage of judgment anyways because it's all physical. So easy to proc on, excels in World Boss Legend, boom, energy. If you don't have an energy, he cannot take advantage of a judgment, and a destruction is basically just a regular proc. So then his second best CTP in my opinion would be a rage. Again, I'm really just focusing on his PvE potential. If you wanted to go PvP for him, regen would be an awesome choice because he has a huge HP pool. You could get freaky with something like a refinement because of the lack of guard break immunity because of dwarf charge, but I'm still kind of iffy on whether dwarf charge works. I got a little piece of hair sticking out here, so I don't know if I would actually recommend the egg. And yes, I did just say the egg when I said refinement. Coming up next, we have Corvus. I actually switched Corvus over to a rage. The reason why I did that is because unlike Cull Obsidian, I feel like Corvus's best game mode is not World Boss Legend. He's good for World Boss Legend, and he's probably the 2nd best speed character in the game for Mephisto specifically. Not the 2nd best character in the game for Mephisto, but the 2nd best speed character in the game for Mephisto. However, I do think ABX is his best game mode, so Rage is the CTP for that. Yes, Rage affects, or yes, Pierce affects ABX after 7 million, so people might say, oh, but the synergy with CTP of energy, it doesn't quite work that way, despite the fact that Pierce does help you in ABX, especially after 7 million points. But Rage certainly helps ABX the most. Rage is made for ABX basically at this point. So yeah, it would go Rage first for Corvus, and then energy second for Corvus. Next up, we've got Supergiant. Honestly, you could give Supergiant no CTP and she would absolutely smash face. She's insanely good. However, with all that elemental damage and her insane value for World Boss Legend and also ABX, you're really torn between Judgment and Rage. I would say if you're not going to give her a Brilliant or a Mighty Judgment, and you're going to focus equally on World Boss Legend and ABX, really you can still go either way. Rage is honestly not a bad choice at all. It's like 55-45 in favor of Judgment in my opinion. I would still put Judgment a little bit ahead of Rage, but they're both really, really good. The more you lean towards World Boss Legend, the more you lean towards Judgment, or you lean more towards Judgment if you can afford, if you have the currency to be giving them Mighties or Brilliance. In that case, Judgment is going to eclipse Rage in a big way for now. Asterisk. TM pending. Anywho, moving on. Oh, I'm supposed to have this in order, Alex. Up next, we've got Human Touch. Amazing character, but not actually as proc friendly as we may have thought originally. So Judgment is definitely a clear winner for him. There's a little bit of delay if you want the maximum damage on 6. You don't want to necessarily instant cancel that because of the flames that he shoots out of his hands. So yeah, Judgment is the clear winner here. After Judgment, you could go with an energy, but I'm honestly going to recommend Rage second, just because it synergizes more with his playstyle where it's not really instantly canceled. But you could really make a case for energy just because of how good he is for World Boss Legend and how important Pierce is in World Boss Legend and how much it synergizes with the chain hit damage on a CTP of energy, etc, etc. So yeah, the second option for him is a little bit muddied. You can go either way, but the first option by far is definitely going to be a Judgment. Coming up next, we have Invisible Woman. I actually haven't given her a CTP. I would say the best option for her is actually PvP from what I've seen. She's not really going to push any meta or any sort of spectacular damage in PvE. So I would say Authority first and then Regen second. Alternatively, you could give her an Insight for support for the Fantastic Four. And then if you really wanted to, you could give her an energy for PvE content. But then of course, if you want the support value, you're going to go with Thing, right? So Thing is the last Transcended member of the Fantastic Four. Insight is by far the best option for him because he has solidified his value as the family man support. If you're not going to give him a support CTP, I would say maybe an energy, just do a little bit more burst damage when you use him in World Boss Legend. But yeah, I wouldn't give this man a Rage. I wouldn't go into PvP with him. There's much better PvP options. Speaking of better PvP options, we have the not the Warriors of the Sky, the Defenders, who sort of seem like they're molded after the Warriors of the Sky because of the crazy synergy. First up, we have Luke Cage, still an amazing PvP powerhouse. Regen is the best option for Luke. If you're not going to go with a Regen, I would still recommend going for PvP, so then I would go with an Authority. Of course, you could go with a Rage. I wouldn't go with an Energy because he doesn't have a lot of hits on his skills. But yeah, I would definitely build him for PvP. Likewise, I would build Jessica Jones for PvP. However, you can also build her as just straight up a support for Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage, although Daredevil's tier 3. So I would give her either an Authority, a Regen, or an Insight. So you can, those really are interchangeable. I'm not going to really say which one's first, second, or third best. It really depends on how you value Jessica Jones as a character and what you want her to do for your team. But I do think PvP is where she's going to excel. And then last but not least, we have Iron Fist. This one's a little bit iffy. I do still have an energy on him, and I do think energy can definitely work. But myself, other content creators, other players have consistently seen inconsistency from Iron Fist with an energy. And he has a whopping 30%, 35%, even more, 35% guaranteed crit rate. Do you know how good that is with a Rage? He will proc his Rage like clockwork. So I kind of have to recommend Rage over energy because I just haven't seen consistent results. He can proc well with an energy, but it's sort of like the Human Torch thing. I'm 55, or the Supergiant thing. I'm 55-45. 55 for the Rage, 45 for the energy. I actually am sort of flip-flopped on it. So yeah, I'm actually going to take that one off him because that's just way too good, that 200 proc. Yeah, you know what? Let me just rip that off right now. And I'll maybe play around with him in the future with a Rage. But yeah, energy, I think I was a little bit too quick to jump on that train. He really does not proc too friendly. Although he has a lot of hits, lots of chain hit. It's such a shame he's just not that proc friendly. He just, if you don't use the 4, you're losing damage and you're losing a really cool skill. If you use the 4, you're gonna miss like every second or third proc. It's crazy, man. He misses so many procs when you do 3 cancel, 4 cancel, delayed cancel 4, you know, 6-5, etc, etc. So yeah, that's it for the Defenders. I keep wanting to say Warriors of the Sky. Up next, we have the last mutant update that we've gotten since this one, since the one before, which is Storm tier 3. Anyways, horrible segue. Gambit. Gambit's a tough one because energy is by far the best choice, and then there's a huge drop off. So if you're not going to give him an energy, question whether you're going to give him a CTP at all, in my opinion. If you're not going to go with energy, or if you can't, but you really want to give him a CTP, Rage is probably still the second best choice because he has a lot of guaranteed crit. He's got 30% guaranteed crit rate, and he's got a lot of crit damage, so it'll be easy to cap all those abilities, all those stats, excuse me. Yeah, but yeah, honestly, it's sort of energy or bust for this guy because he just synergizes too well with an energy to make anything else make sense, sort of like Doctor Strange. Up next, we got X-23. I would highly recommend a Rage just because of how long her skills are, how long the animations, the number of hits, very, very hard to combo them, and there's not a lot of canceling anyways, so chain hit damage doesn't really apply here. And then she also, like the other two characters that I mentioned, has a ton of guaranteed crit rate, which synergizes with a Rage. If you're not going to give her a Rage, she's not bad for PvP. You could give her a Regen. She's honestly not bad at all for PvP. Very, very tanky character. 53k plus for me without any PvP build whatsoever with no HP Urus. Yeah, she's just got high base stats for a combat type, which is not surprising. Anyways, last but not least, we have Nightcrawler. Why are you gonna transcend Nightcrawler? Anyways, if you must transcend Nightcrawler and you want to give him a CTP, I'm not gonna recommend that. Rage is probably your best option, or if you want to be super annoying in Alliance Conquest, you could give him something like an Authority, I guess, because he's got iframes. But honestly, yeah, Nightcrawler is basically dropping into that same bucket as some of the following characters, which leads us to the January Transcended character list. Valkyrie, we're going sort of backwards chronologically. Valkyrie is best with Rage because of how good she is for ABX. If you're not going to give her that, consider giving her an Insight because she is one of the best support characters with the Shield Maiden of Asgard passive. So it's really interesting for her, Rage or Insight. The duality of this character is quite funny. The other two characters, of course, from this update are infamously not reworked. We have Sif and Heimdall. Don't give them CTPs, please. Don't ask. If you have to give them CTPs, honestly, it's either Authority or Rage. Again, Rage is just gonna squeeze a little bit of value out of them, and none of them have hits. None of them have chain hit damage. Like, none of them have cancelable skills to take advantage of an energy. Rage is just gonna, you know, give them a tiny little boost, but it's not gonna really be enough. I guess you could use an energy and just cancel into their sixth skill and just sit on it, I guess, but I honestly would highly recommend considering any other course of action. Anyways, up next, we've got Moonstone and the December Transcended characters. Of course, we all know Moonstone, amazing with an energy, super high damage, lots of chain hit, lots of canceling, really, really good stuff. Huge drop off. Okay, best by far is energy. Huge drop off after that to Rage. Although Rage is best for ABX, sometimes characters just work better with energy, like Cable, and Moonstone is another example of that. So yeah, energy first. Huge secondary option would be Rage. Bullseye, interestingly enough, I would say Rage is the best choice, but he's been dethroned by Corvus. Some people like the switch play between Bullseye and Corvus. Some people don't. So if you don't like the switch play and you just want to use him for his leadership, his 50% ignore dodge, which is good for Null, good for ABX, etc., you could give him an Insight. So I actually think Insight is the second best CTP. He doesn't really work with a regular proc. He's very hard to proc on because of all the delayed damage on 3 and the continuous damage on 4. It just makes proccing on his skills consistently super duper messy, and he doesn't really have one skill besides 6 that does tons of damage, right? He has consistent damage over time with 3 and 4, and he's got decent damage on 5, but it's just spread out so much that a regular proc obelisk, destruction, energy, etc., is just not going to work, and the burn damage doesn't qualify for judgment, so Rage is basically the only option. Last but not least, for the December update, we have Aries, who I cannot find here, and Aries is probably best off with an Insight. Just use him as a leadership for World Boss Null, to be honest with you, right? If you want to be offensive with Aries, I would say either a Rage or an energy. You can really go either way. Rage is probably going to give you more consistency over time with his long cooldowns and his long animations, but you could make energy work just because of how cracked the awakening skill is. The awakening skill for all three of these does so much damage. It really carries these characters in a major way. Speaking of cracked awakening skills, we've got the Spider-Verse characters. Up first, we have Spider-Gwen. This one's a little tough. I would say energy is the best option. She's now the 3rd or 4th best combat villain, so I wouldn't say Rage anymore, and Rage doesn't seem to do her justice. If not energy, you could maybe go with something like a Regen or an Authority as part of a Spider-Verse PvP team because of her synergy with Spider-Woman's leadership. and her 4th skill and things like that. Spider-Woman, on the other hand, is all lightning except for Pheromone Taunt. So you're going to want to give her a Judgment. That's the best option for her if you want to max out Jessica Drew. If not Judgment, then I would just say Rage. She's not the most proc. She's kind of proc friendly, but not the most proc friendly. So I would just take advantage of the animation time and all that good stuff and just slap on a Rage. Last but not least, for the Spider-Verse Awakening characters, we have Silk. Again, a character left in the dust, unfortunately, who I cannot even find when I'm scrolling through this list. And if you're gonna transcend Silk, I ask you why. And then I would say Rage or Authority. And I would still ask you why and who hurt you and can you get help for it. Next up, we've got the Damnation Transcended characters, and I was totally wrong about Moon Knight. I was originally, singing his praises with a Rage. He's so much better with an Energy. So Energy is far and away my best choice for him. And then again, Rage is a distant second, very much like Moonstone. So remember, if they have Moon in their name, give them a CTP of Energy. Really easy way to remember these suggestions, which are basically all just Rage or Energy anyways. Next up, we've got Morbius and Elsa, and these are also 2 characters that I haven't transcended. These are also 2 characters that are not as good. However, Morbius is way better than Elsa. So for Morbius, I would actually say Rage or Regen. And again, if you want to see a really good PvP video of Morbius, I think Commander has one, or at least he showed me some clips of one. Yeah, Morbius is surprisingly decent for PvP. Maybe not nowadays, but back in the day, well, 6 months ago when he was released, or 8 months ago, he was actually decent for PvP. So yeah, Rage or Regen. And then for Elsa, I would say if you're not Chakra, what are you doing with your time and your resources? And then I would say Rage or Authority. Again, these characters that didn't get reworks, it's kind of a shame, but we can't really expect them to do well because they're using skills from like 3-4 years ago. Next up, we have Medusa. Medusa is by far best utilized with Rage because of the long cooldowns and just the general combo of the character and the lack of skill canceling and lack of chain hit damage. However, because of her amazing leadership and her passive for Inhumans, Insight is not a bad option. So Insight is actually my second choice for Medusa. For Amadeus Cho, I would go all offense because he really doesn't have anything going for him defensively or PvP wise. He does have long cooldowns. He's got 20 seconds here and he's got 26 seconds here. So I would say that Energy works. It can definitely work, but I would actually say Rage is better overall, and then Energy is second for Cho. For Beta Ray Bill, on the other hand, we all know he's amazing. 5 cancel 3, cancel 4, cancel 6, or whatever the combo is. Huge burst of elemental damage. Despite having all this elemental damage, because it's all burst damage and because you combo all of it into one, Energy is the best because of all that crazy chain hit. You're chaining like over 100 hits per combo. So because of that, Energy is actually the best choice for him, not Judgment. Judgment would be the second choice, but in my opinion, it's a far gap. It's not a close gap for him, so just be careful of that. Next up, we've got Mystique, and Baby Girl is still hot. However, in the department of speed villains, she's no longer top dog or even second top dog, second dog. So she's probably third dog. That being said, Rage is still the best option for her if you want to get some damage out of her. If not, because of her passive, which is here, you could give her an Insight. I know it hurts. I know it hurts to recommend an Insight for Mystique, but a lot of people are doing it for World Boss Legend, for ABX, etc., for DRX. It hurts, but it sort of makes sense at this point. And then we have sort of the rest of the characters. I'm going to go through them, but these characters have sort of been forgotten at this point because their value for the game wasn't even that high when they came out and has only gotten less, has only like lowered since they were released. So we've got Dr. Octopus. Honestly, Energy or Rage, they can both work. If you're desperate to use him for PvP, for ABX, and you have no one else and you're not going to build up any other speed villains, which is weird, why would you do that? Then I would say Rage over Energy, but honestly, they can both work. But honestly, giving him a CTP at this point in 2021 is kind of a bad idea. It's kind of a bad investment. Alternatively, you could give him an Insight because he can still work as a support character for ABX and for squad battle because you can use him here. Let's say, for example, I don't have Gwen, right? I could use him if I don't have an Insight on him for whatever reason. Bullseye's my main damage dealer, and then I use him with an Insight. Again, probably better to give an Insight to Baron Zemo, but maybe you don't have Baron Zemo at all, so you got to use her or whatever. So you sort of get what I'm saying. That's the only reason why I'm suggesting Insight. Be careful with the Insights on these characters. Don't just slap them on. Think about it, right? Figure it out. But yeah, that's the suggestion. Next up, we've got Red Skull. I'm actually tempted to make a video about him because with the new synergy between Ebony Maw and Colossus, excuse me, he's actually not bad for PvP. I made a video about him when he released last year and he wasn't bad for PvP then, but since then we've got a lot of PvP powerhouses like Silver Surfer Black and, you know, Immortal Hulk and Sentry. You know Sentry. Anyways, he can still hang with Sentry. I've actually been using this team and winning like 95% of my matches, but I am playing on manual, etc., yada yada, my cards. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Not saying he's top 10 or even top 20 PvP. Maybe he's top 20. Yeah, he's honestly not that bad. So I would recommend regen for him first. If not regen, I would probably recommend authority. It is, however, good to note, Hero Hunter passive is very, very good. If we get more content in the future that is hero bosses, like if we get a new world boss legend that's a hero for some reason, he could be very, very good with a rage. He could be very, very good with a rage. So just keep that in the back of your mind, but don't give him a rage in advance because that's just a bad gamble. Second to last, we have Red Guardian. When is the rest of that update ever going to come out? When are we going to get a Yelena Awakening? Who knows? But anyways, in the meantime, for my boy, for old Russian Cap, we've got Energy or Rage. That's really your best option for him. Just pick whichever one you have. He can honestly work with both. Maybe Rage is a little bit more consistent, but honestly, Energy can definitely work. I've done it with him, and it's not bad. The chain hit damage is decent. Last but not least, I'm just going to bundle up the Warriors of the Sky together, because if you're going to build one of them, you're going to build at least 3 of them. The only one I don't have built is War Tiger, but basically at this point, they're only used for Alliance Conquest. That's it. And maybe as a team-up bonus for Sharon Rogers in Squad Battle for Blue Dragon's case. But yeah, because they're only used in Alliance Conquest, you're going to need to build 3 of them because they work together as a trio, which is basically why they were designed. Not as characters, but how their skills and passives were designed in the game. So, Blue Dragon, Sunfire, and Shadow Shell. You can lump in War Tiger with this, but basically for them, you're either going to want to go Destruction because they lack Pierce, or Authority, or Regen, again, for more PvP value, depending on your cards, depending on your builds, etc. But yeah, I wouldn't give any of the Warriors of the Sky a Rage, or even, you know, a Judgment or an Energy, because their PvE value is just not there at all. The one small potential exception, a lot of caveats there, is Shadow Shell. She actually has surprisingly good elemental damage for something like the All War if you're going to use her for fragment farming, and if you don't have anybody else, she's not bad. So maybe consider giving her a Judgment for that, but that's, you know, very, very niche, and only if you absolutely love Shadow Shell. And you know what? She's pretty cute. I mean, she's pretty cool. Like, the design of the character is pretty dope. So maybe you do really love Shadow Shell. I don't know. But yeah, those are my suggestions. I've just went through all 35 Transcended characters. Sorry I couldn't make the video under 25 or under 24 minutes. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.